Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is a full review of Portrait of a Lady by Malle. So when I first spray this one, I get a rich rose. There is like a subtle spice, but there's clove in here, so it has this kind of refreshing almost freshness to it, if that makes sense. So it's rose, there's a cooling quality to it. There's also kind of this, I get two distinct vibes. I get almost like an incensey vibe, and there is frankincense in here, but I think it's the way the frankincense and patchouli and sandalwood comes together creates an almost incensey-like quality to it. But the other quality that really comes to me on my nose is a powderiness, like a soft powder. But it doesn't smell like iris, but there is a texture that smells dusty, dry, slightly powdery, borderline talcum powder kind of vibe, but all blended together with this kind of a bright rose. The way that it comes off to me is that it isn't it's not a dark rose, it's not a dirty, earthy rose. This is more of a bright, rosy kind of rose to my senses. As this one dried down on my skin, I got a little bit of a fruity sweetness, which it has a raspberry note, and that does come through in the mid. You get just a hint of this kind of raspberry-like sweetness there, but it's combined with this powdery rose. For me, the incense kind of vibe then goes away during the heart of the fragrance, and it becomes this powdery rose, basically. Yeah, powdery rose. One of the notes that seems to come to me is cashmerean, and obviously that's not listed, and I might not be accurate there, but it has vibes of that to me. There's like a musky quality to it underneath, and musk isn't officially listed on the official website, but cashmerean imparts this kind of sensual, silky musk feeling, and I get vibes of that, especially in the dry down once this is fully dried down. For me, this comes across more feminine personally. It actually reminds me a little bit of potpourri. When I close my eyes and imagine it, it just has a little bit of a vibe of potpourri. And I think the way that it comes off powdery on my skin also makes it lean feminine for me, and also the rose being a bit lighter. This actually doesn't smell like a rose absolute. If you have rose absolutes, they're very complex and dark and rich, complicated kind of smells. This actually smells like, I mean, I might be wrong here, but for me it smells like a rose replacer, artificial rose replacer. It actually smells a little bit like Rose Wardia, which is made by Feminiche. I might be wrong, but that's just the vibe that it gives me. I find rose replacers are basically, they're brighter, they're more rosy, they're less complicated, more singular kind of notes. Rose absolutes are quite dense and dark. It smells brighter, it smells rosier, it smells sweeter than a rose absolute, which makes sense because rose absolute's very heavily restricted in the EU and in perfume, so you know, most people do use a rose replacer anyway. There's probably a little bit of, you know, real Turkish rose in here, but I think it's been bulked up with a replacer. Just my opinion, I might be wrong, but that's the way it comes across. For me, once it gets past the mid and into the dry down, I lose the sweetness of that kind of raspberry kind of tone, and it fades off as a powdery rose. It's interesting because a lot of people that say they smell a lot of patchouli in here, and I've got to be honest, I mean, I get a hint of it, but it's really not a strong note to me. On my skin and on paper, the patchouli is there, but it's not dominant, it's not a loud, huge, I'm a stinky green thing, you know. I really don't get that much patchouli. It's there, but to me it doesn't take over, and it's not hugely strong, because I'm not a fan of patchouli, but it doesn't turn me off. I don't think this smells bad. I actually think it smells very nice, but I would prefer it on a woman. I personally wouldn't wear it because it does strike me as quite feminine. In terms of performance for this one, it was really good in the first 2 hours. It projects like crazy, really quite far actually. The sillage is kind of monstrous. I guarantee you would definitely get noticed, and people will ask probably what you're wearing within the first 2 hours. It's quite loud on my skin. After that, it comes close quite quickly, and I kind of gauge it around 6 hours before it becomes a skin scent, and it drags on for another few hours after that to about the 9-hour mark, maybe even 10. But I think the performance is very good. In terms of price, I actually think it's very fairly priced. It's around the region of a Tom Ford private blend, about £160 for the 50ml. I think it's pretty fair. How to sum it up in a nutshell for me, for the way it works on my skin, is it's a soft, feminine, powdery rose with a little bit of a fruity sweetness, a little bit of a muskiness, and just a hint of patchouli. I do feel like it's more mature. It's not a kid's fragrance or a teenage fragrance. This is a mature woman. A woman would wear this fragrance. It is very womanly, it's tasteful, it's beautifully done, it's nicely balanced. For me, I think this would lend itself excellent to a professional woman in, you know, in an office or business environment. It kind of has an air of sophistication and professionalism about it. It doesn't smell like a youthful, playful perfume. This one comes across more elegant to me, which is why I associate it more with a more mature, kind of grounded woman, rather than being super playful and fun. Although I personally feel that it's feminine for myself, I wouldn't be comfortable wearing it. It does come across too feminine to me. I do think the right guy can pull it off, so it is unisex. It depends how comfortable you are with, you know, powdery kind of roses. But I actually really like this one. I think it's very tasteful, very well balanced. I think it smells great. The performance is great. And I would definitely recommend it to women, especially women that like rose. Definitely worth checking out. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you again next time with another one. Take care. Bye bye.